cannot. So, hey, everybody, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm actually going to move to the next slide in just a second, so you'll understand what we would love you to get started doing. We're so happy that you're here joining us. We're going to talk about equity in computer science as part of the CS4NY Summit. So we do have an activity to get you started, and Norval has put a link in the chat for you. We want to actually extend upon this morning. Who knew we were all going to be talking about the same thing? So Norval, I'm going to have you walk us through it in 1 second. But what we're talking about is, what is the difference between equality versus equity? We'll continuously put the link in the chat for you. What you will be prompted to do is to make a copy. And then, so now you'll see my messy screen or everything. And once you make your copy, it's going to take you here. This is your individual board. Norval, do you want to speak to this?
Absolutely. So this board was created out of desperation, I must say. I must add, it was out of desperation because we had teaching in urban school district. We have all these different students who have access issues. And the reason is, right, a teacher would come in and say, I'm doing the same thing for all my students. That's only fair. I know how many people have heard that before. So I created this activity, which gives us kind of a tactile way. There are really 4 buckets in this activity, and I'd like everybody to kind of try it. There are 4 buckets: equality, inequality, equity, and justice. Now, all I'm asking you to do is to look at the image, and in your own interpretation, which one of those images would fit best in each of those buckets. And if you could use the chat, if you have any questions, we'd be more than happy. But I think it's really a great way to kind of experience what equality versus equity means.
So we're going to give you a few moments to work on that. No one can see what you're doing. This is your work.
It is your work. Exactly. You have the privacy of just playing around with it. What we'll do is we'll ask for some volunteers though in the chat to tell us where to move each image. Is that okay, Mrs. Ross?
Absolutely, Mrs. Ross. Absolutely. Julie, and yes, we're all going to introduce ourselves in a few minutes.
You got it. I love that. Did you see what Sean is saying in the chat? Sean is saying in the chat that I always saw the giving tree as an example of a blatant selfishness and cruelty. Oh. It's fun to see it connected to equity. I actually aligned with it. The tree actually represents kind of the big system, right? The huge system, educational system that we all live and occupy a space in. So thank you, Sean. I really appreciate your passion on this topic.
So if we give everyone 1 more minute, we would love to hear your feedback.
So Julie, maybe what we could do is we could ask everybody, like, do a chat cascade to tell us where would you move the top right image, and you could move it for us on screen.
Absolutely. So
thank you.
My colleagues are helping me hint to me for next time. First time using Hopin, so I'm not looking at 2 screens. So right now I can only see what you see. So after the cascade, if one of my colleagues could just tell me where to place things, that would be helpful.
Absolutely. So let's start with the top. So if everybody in the chat, let's start with the top right. That's the tree with the bent tree. Yes. So if you put your scroll on, exactly. If you guys could in the chat after 3, 2, 1, tell us which of the buckets you place this image. 3, 2, 1. Could you please put in the chat? Thank you, Timothy. All right. So Timothy and and Brittany has shared so far. Anybody else? All right. So we are actually getting a unanimous outpour of inequality. So Joey,
Okay,
could we move that image to inequality? Thank you.
absolutely. What we're using, again, in case you're not sure, is a Jamboard Google app program. And if you're not a Google school, you can actually still share a Jamboard with anyone.
Yes, absolutely. All right, good. So let's do that. We will finish the image and then we can discuss it. So if we go to the next image, and absolutely. So it's the bottom right. Where would you put that image? And we've done this. So let's do it after 3, 2, 1. Chat cascade. You guys could put it in the chat. Where should we put that image? All right, we have a unanimous outpour of justice. So could you put it to the yes, please? Thank you. Okay, so now maybe the next two are really the main reason we're here. And so if we go to the top one, are you to the bottom? Are we to the bottom? Let's see. So we go 3, 2, 1. Which of those buckets? Where should we put it? The bottom image. On chat cascade, where would we put that image? All right. So we have an outpouring of equality.
Equality. Okay.
Equality. And then the final image, I guess, will default to equity. All right, excellent. So I've done this with groups of people before, and this is the first time that I've ever had everybody actually got the image correct. That everybody did. And I think maybe this, so it tells us kind of where we are. But let me just go back and kind of do the keynote helped absolutely because it aligns so well. So let me I'm going to give you the story that as I see it in this image. Here we have a system, and this apple tree is a beautiful image of a system that we all exist in, an educational system in which we all play a role. However, this system is systematically bent in favor of some people. And as you see, if you look at the inequality of the system, in the inequality bucket, you'll see some people just getting apples without even trying. And others, no matter how hard they try, they will never get the apple. They'll never get the apple. So then if we move on from there, right, most teachers try to accommodate for that in their school, and school systems try to do that. And what they do is that we walk in and we try to give everybody an equal footing, because that's only fair, right? That everybody deserves an equal footing. So we give them all the same size ladders. And then when we do that, look what happened. Some people still cannot reach the fruit because not everybody, if we're truly going to be an equitable school, we cannot possibly give everybody the same ladder. Some people deserve a little more just to get the same access that others have. So that's where we go to equity. So equity is now the very thoughtful educator, the very thoughtful administrator or principal or teacher who walks in and says, you know, this is my student coming from a country that doesn't speak English. Or this is my student who's coming in with an IEP and need an extra help. Or this is just my student with a different background that just need a little support. So we give them an extra support, an added support. But see, even with all those, we still have to admit that the system is skewed towards some people. So that's when we go bigger picture and we go to summits like these and we go to the governor and we go to the system and try to bend the system back. Try to create a system and we partner with colleges and we go out and we use all the resources we get just so we can bend that and brace that tree back, that everybody can get a pathway so we can have all people having the same access. And when we go towards justice, then what we do is that we notice that the same size ladder works for everyone. But that's the ideal, right? That's where we try to get eventually. But for the time being, what we have is what we can control in our school buildings and our schools. And that what we do, we give them different size ladders, different level of supports. And I think that's the talk that we're about to talk about now. Right, Julie and Jesse?
Absolutely. And we could be here forever having this conversation. So thank you so much for that amazing opening activity. We just want to introduce ourselves, and I might have to actually close my screen to see if one of our other partners is here. So you might get a weird image for a second. Just checking in our people. I know you can see what I'm doing right now. Hey, Tim. I wanted to see if Leon Tynes was in here with us. He was going to come join us. Okay, so I can go back. Thank you all. So just very quickly, I'm Julianne Ross Kleiman, or Julie. I am I have a new title. So I'm trying to remember it. I'm an instructional data analysis and technology specialist at Ulster BOCES, which basically means I help our school-based programs with tech support, academic and hardware, as well as data privacy, and I also assist in our data. So all those things together, right? Our data helps us know what we need to know and the ways in which we can support all of our students, and our true data gives us a voice, or gives all of our students a voice. So this is me, and I'm joined today with Dr. Moya. Dr. Moya, could you please introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. I'm a professor at Siena College. I'm also a first-generation college student, and I started as a computer scientist, and I dropped out after 2 semesters. I also have 2 older brothers who dropped out of high school, and I think both of those personal experiences led me to want to try to study and understand the types of learning environments that engage students in schools, right? And so I've had the opportunity to work on a couple of National Science Foundation grants around broadening participation in computer science. One at UCLA during my graduate school, and then one at Siena College.
Thank you so much. We're also joined with by Norval. If you can introduce yourself, that's who walked us through our opening activity.
Thank you so much. I'm actually very honored to be among all the computer scientists in the room and in the summit. So I'm Norval Connell. I'm currently the instructional leader for STEM in the Middletown School District. And I've had the opportunity to actually have started in partnership with Siena College, who I can't speak more highly of as an amazing partner. Dr. Moya, you guys should be super proud of the work that you're doing. I actually started in partnership with Siena College, a 4-year computer science program in the Middletown School District, which has taken off amazingly. My passion for technology and for computer science and for just 21st century skills, it's unwavering, because I've seen the impact it has had on this community and community of needs, because I've served a lot of years in New York City, and I've seen where people have graduated high school and you're wondering what is next for them. Well, 21st century skills, which at the center of that is computer science, open the door. And that's why I'm happy to be here, because we're going to champion that, not only for the students who have access, but for the unlikely student who people will never think could study computer science. We want to open the door for them. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. So just our guiding norms, and interesting because that kind of goes along with if you were at the keynote, the guiding norms. We're hoping that you just listen for understanding, respect the differences that are brought together into this room. We're all looking at things with different eyes and different experiences. We're hoping that you assume good intentions by things that are said or things that are challenged or shared, whether in the chat or if you come onto the stage with us. And when they try that one more time. And we ask that you continue to stay kind because we know that you are, and that you continue to bring that out into the world with you. So what we're going to do is we're going to break this up into the strategies that we employ, so that maybe those are some suggestions that you can bring along to your school or to your district. And I'll go first. And mine is all about making connections. So when I'm thinking about equity and equality in computer science and education, it made me think of this picture. This is my friend Juliet Boone. She is at the Hyde Park Public Schools. When I first moved to this area, I worked in Duchess Bosse's as an instructional technology specialist, and Hyde Park was my school. So these are just some of the connections that were made in the period of time that I worked there. Together, Julia and I worked in her classroom, a 12-1-1 class. And she told me from the minute that she met me that her special ed students all need to be successful in life, and that if I'm coming into her room, what tools and skills are we going to help them to meet that there should not be any low expectations of what her students could do. So collectively, I brought in all kinds of resources from Makey to Ozobots to BrainPop, connected with Hummingbird Technologies, and even had them come online with us through Zoom before we were even in COVID doing Zooms, to have them do lessons online with us. Because honestly, I didn't know all of these technologies, and I needed to reach out to make connections with experts in the field to have them help us work with her students, or me work with any students. Together, we became part of the ISTE STEM Professional Learning Network, where again, we reached out to so many people locally, globally, nationally, just to get resources, to present what we were doing so others can take a look at the lessons that were happening in her class so that they can make connections with us. I can go on and on and on and on and on about our connections. We had IBM come in and work with her students. But then we also connected with Horizons. Horizons National is an organization that helps close the gap in education for all students. And we went to the Brunswick School. And that's why I was also hoping my friend Leon was here, because he came with us and a few others that we met. Michelle Palmieri as well from Dutchess County. We went and we did a Scratch Day event for the students and the families. The families were invited. We made sure that everyone had resources. It was free online to work with Scratch and Scratch Junior. They provided us with all the technology. And after that event, I actually sat with their teachers and gave them instructions on how they can continue this. So it wasn't just that we went in and did it, so it was a one and done. We gave them additional resources on how they can move forward. So for me, the best way to close that gap is to make connections, to help our students see windows, mirrors, sliding glass doors. They need to see people that look like them. They need to see other people. They need to see opportunities. And so making those connections are important. And the last regional meetup I was in, I spoke about, and another connection I could put here is my sorority. I work with the Mid-Hudson Valley Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta, and we work with middle school age girls of color on Saturdays. And again, we bring all of these resources and reach out to so many different people to make connections. So for me, my strategy is making connections. Jesse, could you share?
Yes.
And I don't know if anybody had a question, because again, I can't see the chat. Before we go on to Jesse, if anyone has a question or something that you want to share or let me know, and then we'll have Jesse share his strategies.
I just want to say Tim Needles was just honoring the IST STEM.
Yes,
That is an amazing group, and many of them are actually logged on right today. So
that is true.
we wanted to make that known.
We formed a bond, whether we see each other once a year or we always know we can reach out to one another. And that's looks like I'm going right into what Jesse's going to talk about in building relationships.
Yeah,
Thank you for that
segue. My strategies and or lessons learned come from a multi-year research project that I've been working on. And one of the things that I did was I interviewed 34 high school students in computer science courses, most of them twice during an academic year. Most of the students were male, reflecting kind of the demographics of the group, but I did have kind of a handful of females as well. And one of the things that was interesting to see in the data, both the qualitative interviews and surveys, was that females consistently reported like having very positive experiences, oftentimes feeling a stronger sense of belonging, a stronger sense of engagement and satisfaction with the course, despite being one of kind of very few females in those courses, right? And so what I want to do is I want to share a couple of quotes that I feel that highlight some really important experiences from the students and really let you in to hear their voices, right? So I want you to just go ahead and read this first quote and let me know, like in the chat space, what you think might be some lessons learned or some questions, some takeaways or some questions that you can take from this quote. And as folks are reading and thinking about possible things to kind of share in the chat space, I just want to add a little bit of additional context that this student, Jill as a pseudonym, was the only female in her classroom for the first month of the year. And that situation, obviously, as you can read here, made her feel very uncomfortable and out of place. So we got a couple of Tim. Thank you for sharing. About how important representation is, right? Visuals and stories about mentors, and I think that's a huge piece of the takeaway here, right? You've seen somebody who reflects your experience in the classroom is important. Okay. And that, Norval adds that student-teacher relationships are important, right? And that we need more, Tim says we need more diversity. So, I was hoping no one would say that, this means that, all CS teachers need to wear more skirts, right? Because one of the things that, it's clear here that to Jill, having a female teacher was powerful and impactful. But she also talked about wanting to have a female peer. And it was interesting because about a month into the class, another female came into the class and Jill was so excited. And when she got partnered with her, she was quickly kind of disappointed because the other female actually shared a lot of the same characteristics as the other males in the class in terms of kind of not really wanting to engage with her and not being very friendly. And so Jill kind of reassessed and said, well, I didn't necessarily feel like I needed another female. I needed someone who I associated with female tendencies of being friendly and welcoming. And later on in the class, she was actually paired with another male student who had those characteristics, and it really helped her feel like more engaged in the classroom, having somebody that she could talk to about things. And so even though Jill says that she feels like if she had a male teacher, she might have dropped out, I feel like if she had a male teacher who reached out to her and made her feel like that she was cared about, then I think that's what really she would have been looking for and would have made the big difference. And so thank you folks for your additional comments in the space. And yeah, I think these are great additions to kind of what we've said so far. I just want to, in the interest of time, just go through this next quote, and just kind of emphasizing the importance of relevant content as part of the curriculum. The students are required to do a research project to research an underrepresented figure in computer science. And one of the students, Imani, shared this quote, which is essentially kind of highlights how important seeing somebody else who was like her, similar to the previous slide, but this time kind of in the field of computer science, and really having that serve as an inspiration for her, feeling that she also could kind of push through kind of challenges that she might have in the field. And so that, the key takeaway for me on this is that, even some periodic engagements with kind of exploring kind of the diversity in the field through the curriculum can be transformational for students, right? And for this student, it was particularly powerful. And the other thing that I found in my interviews is that the male students also found this activity to be really interesting and rewarding, not to the same extent of transformational as students like Imani and some of the other females did, but it really opened their eyes to kind of some important issues of diversity in the field, right? It kind of changed what they saw as a computer scientist, right? And so I think we really also need to be thinking about how this is important for underrepresented students in the classroom, but also for those students who are in the majority and need to be able to kind of have those windows, right, into kind of the experiences of others in the field. Additional comments on the side that I appreciate, importance of having lessons designed to support students, they can share their own identity and culture. I think that's definitely something that's important in this space, and thinking about where are times that we can kind of integrate these lessons into our computer science curriculum are really important. For the interest of time, I don't want to go on any further. I'll go ahead and pass it on to our next panelist.
Thank you so much. Norville, can you tell us your strategies?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So one of the things I love the fact that we're actually having segues into from one conversation to the next, right? So here we're talking about relationship, and Timothy Fowler and the chat says, I agree. Everyone needs to change their ideas of who can be a computer person, engineer, etc. Right? And that's one of the things that I face. So my strategy is, why computer science? Why computer science? And that is not my question, or that's probably not even the question of the people who are in this audience today. This is a question of our students, the scholars we see every day, right? It is a commitment. It is rigorous, it's exciting, but it's also very rigorous. It takes work, it takes practice, and it's demanding. So why computer science? Why do I take on this work in high school? Why do I take on this at this age, right? And we have to think about it. Coming from New York City, and that was a culture shock for me, really, leaving Jamaica and coming to New York City to teach in an urban public schools. And you're thinking, whoa, in all this, I'm sure they've met a computer scientist before. I'm sure they have worked and seen people who have actually explored this career. And the idea is that no, many of our students have not had an opportunity to even see an expert in the field, to know what it's like, to ask questions, right? To see, how do I do this? The idea is that students need to be able to know, to have that answer. And I remember the students, why do I learn this, Mr. Connell? Why do I need to do this? And I keep saying, well, I'm happy that you ask, because fortunately I have had the opportunity to be in corporate America. So I was able to answer a lot of these questions, right? I was able to tell them, I remember working as an analyst, and because of my mathematics, they sent me off to Washington, D.C. to get trained to become a SAS programmer, right? And all these different avenues that a knowledge of computer science have opened for us. But when we talk about urban communities, our students are limited. They don't get to see an uncle who has done the job, or a godfather, or the guy down the street who has studied computer science and have passed and have gone into career. So to answer those whys, we reach out to partners. We try to develop partnership. We try to go off to see who are the people in the field who are successful, who looks like me, sound like me, probably have a similar background, right? Somebody who, and I was so happy that Timothy put that in, because I was like, yeah, right? Somebody who has the same restrictions and limitations that I have, who did not have a tall ladder to reach all the apples on the side of the tree, but yet here they are, and they're flourishing in a career that's so meaningful and so cutting edge. So I reached out. We create these partnerships, and then we have them come in and meet with our students, but not just to preach to our students, but to connect with them, to mentor them, to have this one-on-one relationship, to be able to actually hear their side and to share their story with our students. One student came to me 2 nights ago. He came back for an honor society for his brother. And he was like, Mr. Khan, I'm so upset with you. My brother told me that you guys have a 4-year computer science program. How come I didn't know about that? How come I never got that when I was here? But that student, regardless of all the limitations that he had, because of all the exposure he had to different people in the course, he went on to RIT, and he was in their 4+1 program. He's in his 5th year. And while in his 5th year, he's actually a software programmer working virtually and earning a very significant income. He was dangling his car keys and showing me. And I was like, look at this young man, right? The idea. So not only are we taking the professionals, I'm taking him back now to the classrooms. So I'm like, you're coming back to speak to all my students. You're coming back to show them that you sat in those same chairs. You had the same struggles, the same limitations. Your ladder was not as tall as many of their ladders. But yet here you are, almost entering an amazing field, already changing the economy of your family and the economy of your circumstances by having a really great career. So the idea is, why computer science? Well, the truth is, computer science is the 21st century skill. The job market has opened up for computer scientists, and it's doubling. And if you look at the labor reports, you'll see how many opportunities are there. You know who wants to know that? Parents. So we do parent outreach, and we invite them in to come in and see why computer science, to answer that question for themselves. Because when they're interested, when parents see that you're going to change not just the future of my child, but you may change the future of my entire family. And eventually, we're going to change the futures of this entire community, because we're going to have all these different careers that's computer science aligned. But it's really important to not only answer it for our students, but answer it for their parents as well. And as we do so, it's all in the partnership that we do with them. So thank you, Tim, for giving me that opportunity to actually segue on your comment, because I thought that was really beautiful. Because they're coming in with all different size ladders. Many of them don't even know where the apple, how to even go near the apple. But the idea is, if we are willing to answer that question for them as to the why, then we're talking about we're going to get buy-in from not just parents, but their scholars. And once they're bought in and they're willing to go through the rigors of developing this very important 21st century skill, they will change the school, the community, their lives, and they will help us to write a new future. So I believe that our investment in equity is to make sure that we can answer the whys for our student. Why computer science? And if we leave here with nothing today, let's leave with that though, right? Why computer science? Let's leave with an answer. Why computer science? And if we can help to answer that for them, we will be a step ahead of most programs. So yes, I really do appreciate this. Thank you very much. And thank you, Tim. I appreciate you, brother.
So again, I feel like we could sit here and talk. I don't know about you, but I'm talking about myself. I could sit here and talk about this all day. So I'm not quite sure what's in the chat, again, because I just can't see. But as we do a wrap up, I'm going to ask you the question. What threads did you see weaved through the 3 presentations? And if you could put that in the chat, or if anyone wants to come on stage, let me know. What threads, what through line came through those 3 presentations?
So I can see the chat. Tim says, importance of warm, caring relationships for learners. Catherine says, relationships. Absolutely.
Right, that makes me think of Rita Pearson, if you ever saw her TED Talk on education, right? The importance of relationships,
Yes.
the trust that we build. Jesse talks about building that relationship with students. I thought I wanted another girl to work with, but actually that's not what I wanted. But building those relationships, making those connections, networking, like I was talking about. And then Norval explaining the why of even doing this. Absolutely. Jesse, is there anything else that you want to share as we wrap up?
You know, I think that one thing to tie into the kind of the pictures from the beginning, that I think a lot of our projects are doing a really great job of providing equity in the classroom when we're thinking about, you know, how do we reach out to underrepresented students and help them feel like they belong and develop good relationships. But we still are struggling with that justice piece, right? That justice piece of there's still only a few, those students are still underrepresented. And then in our study, we found that they had such a great experience in the classroom and they still were unsure about being a computer scientist in the field, right?
Yeah.
Partly because they knew that there were stereotypes and possible kind of biases that exist in the field. And so those are where those kind of structural kinds of issues come into play, right? That we need to kind of continue to think about how do we move that, you know, restructure that tree, right? So that, you know, that underrepresented students can really feel like not only do they belong in the classroom, but they belong kind of in the field of computer science as well.
Yes. Norval, is there anything else that you want to say as we wrap up? We actually have some
know,
time.
I have to. Dr. Moya is sparking me. I've absolutely. Dr. Moya, and listen, it is so important for summits like these, for the CSTA, for all the amazing educators who are here to really, we need to champion together to really bend that tree back. So that you're absolutely right. Create opportunities for our students to not only to find justice for themselves, but to continually seek it. And when they seek it, to find it for others. Because you're right, there's so many people who are just absolutely locked out. You know, there's one young lady I can tell you. She when her data, nothing showed that she could do computer science. I actually reached out to her father one summer and I had a long chat with them. We're talking and they called me. They wanted, right? Now she's in her 4th year of computer science in the high school. She's done more internships with computer science programs and in the summer than any other student. She wanted it more than everybody else. But in partnership with her family, we're learning to bend that tree backwards to give her all the opportunities that she deserves. So you're absolutely right. And I so agree with you. is that we have to really think about it. I know we're doing great things in our classrooms. I've never seen one computer science teacher that's been mediocre. They've all been exceptional. The idea is we're doing those great things, but we need to always address the system at large. So thank you for this opportunity. I think this is a step in the right direction.
Yes. So as we start to wind down, it's 12 o'clock. It's almost 12 o'clock. It's 11:57. We end at 12:05. Does anybody have any questions, comments, anything that they want to share? Anybody wants to come on stage, let us know. Or if you want to put it in the chat. Do you have a question for any one of us specifically, or something that you want to share that's been successful for you? Go ahead.
We have some great comments in the chat, and we could start off there.
Yeah.
Carrie Kelly says, giving students the opportunity to feel accepted by you as the teacher.
Yes.
Right. And that's a great, absolutely. I thought that was awesome because that came out a lot. Brittany Moore says, being passionate about the content and helping the students feel they can succeed.
Yes.
Right.
And you know what? Before you go on for the next one, I'm going to say something. I need to let everybody in this room know I didn't do well at math because we kind of seem to put that together, math and CS. Math in high school was not my strong point until I got to college and then realized how I needed to practice and how I needed to. And sometimes it's not always me, it's the way in which I'm being taught. And so I have to look for other avenues to succeed. So I want to put that out there. And then I want to put out there that computers, that was not my thing either. And I kind of fell into that. I was supposed to be a kindergarten teacher, and there was too much attrition over in Yonkers, and I ended up being a computer teacher. I didn't know what I was doing. And then they wanted me to do after-school clubs. Robots? No. But I have to tell you, after receiving a lot of training on computational thinking at MIT, what I learned was I don't have to know the answer to everything. But that comment about being willing and passionate. And so I let the kids lead me. There were times I needed to bring those connections in to have them teach the skills. And I was right there with the kids. I was really there to be the facilitator and the chaperone so that they were safe. And I was honest in saying, I don't know. Let's find out. So don't let your skills kind of stop you from moving forward with something to do with kids, because I didn't have all the skills I needed, but I reached out to others to help support me so that I didn't just say, no, I can't do the club because I didn't know. I reached out to others so that the kids could have the club and they could teach me as well. So I just wanted to share that.
And Kelly has a great question in the chat. She says, I find it weird when I try to encourage the girls in my classes, but not leaving out the boys. How do I put women in tech on a pedestal? But it really means everyone is welcome, right? And I think that the research on this is fairly consistent, and I saw that in my kind of work as well, is that the males already feel like they belong in computer science. Yeah. And it's the underrepresented students who are struggling with this concept. So this is, I think, where equity comes into play in terms of, they already kind of have that kind of sense of belonging. And so what we really need to do is kind of see how we can help emphasize and support females and students of color, and they're feeling like they're also represented in this field. And I think that the at least the males that I talked with, most of them appreciated learning about how there is some diversity in the field. And a lot of them talked about, I think partly because of the course, talking about we need to have more diversity in the field, right? And so that can be a challenge, but I think it can be beneficial for all groups.
That's Rochelle had a good point. She said, I find that kids are often the best teachers. And right. And then she said, I often ask kids to figure it out and teach others. And that's one of the things that I've championed over the years with teachers, is that active versus passive classrooms, right? Computer science is active. It's not a passive learning. You don't listen to a text being read, right? It is getting in and getting your hands dirty, trying to code 6-7 times getting a red flag that it doesn't work, right? Right, or even 100 times, but getting a red flag that it can't, right? And changing syntax and going over and over. That's computer science. It's tinkering. So you're absolutely right, is that the computer science classroom requires exactly that. A classroom that facilitates the active learning, student engaging with each other as you're engaging with the program. So yes, we try to champion it as much as possible. That's a big part of the job that I do here. So, really making that shift. So thank you so much, Rochelle, for saying that. I think that's really important. And that's a ladder, right? That's a ladder, giving them another piece, another ladder, extra step. Sorry, I just said it.
No, you're fine. No sorries. So it's 12:02. I know, again, we go to 12:05, but if you want to, take that time, take your break before you move on to the next session. We hope that you enjoy the rest of today and tomorrow as well. And we just want to thank you so much for attending and hope that you got something. So walked away with one thing today and that you could share that with everyone that you meet in your path. If anybody else on our team wants to say anything else, we thank you all.
Likewise, thank you all for your participation. This was great.
And thank you. I'm just happy to be here among all these computer science minds. So thank you so much.